relaxing evening tonight, and we'll have breakfast for supper. Crunchy waffles and crunchy bacon. And I was gonna have milk, but I'm craving some Powerade punch. So we're gonna have some fruit punch. We're going to dip our waffles in boysenberry syrup. Is that bad? I do know most people just pour it on top. Tons of butter and tons of syrup. Oh my goodness. Such wonderful memories of the International House of Pancakes we used to go to as kids. So let's have a relaxing evening tonight as we, like I said, have breakfast for supper. I used to prefer my bacon undercooked, kind of greasy and like I said, undercooked. But I think I learned from my husband. He prefers crunchy bacon. I think I'm starting to like crunchy bacon more so. batteries were all messed up. They didn't show up yesterday. It was one of those alarms on your phone, you know, the emergency broadcasting system. You know how on TV they make this huge beep? Well, now they send it to your cell phone. They sent it 2 different times yesterday. I'm never prepared. Amber alerts come with an emergency beep, you know, weather alerts. And I'm startled every single time. And you would think by now I would figure it out. In fact, if I still have the emergency text on my cell phone, I'll take a picture of it and insert it right here. Obviously, if there's no picture later inserted right here, I deleted it off my phone. So now we know. Pieces of bacon in one sitting. Has to have a ton of fat in bacon, and I remember hearing somewhere that there's a parasite that lives in pork that can't be killed even after cooking. And of course, that's what I think about every time I eat bacon. I need to follow up on that and see if that's really true. See how I'm trying to break off the fat. Terrible. posted a George Costanza yesterday with the trash can. But George Costanza, the day he got in trouble for eating, I do believe it was a donut or a muffin. I think it was a donut. That was sitting on the top of the trash in the trash can. And he thought it was okay. I will try to find the little episode clip and link it in the show more description box below. But so then somehow everybody found out it was some kind of gathering with people. And he, of course, he got bludgeoned with questions about it, and his reasoning made it sound okay. And for some reason, I remember watching it thinking that I would probably have done that, because it was a perfect looking donut. For some reason, I wanted to say cream puff or chocolate eclair. So anyways, my husband did not eat not quite half of his sandwich. Excuse me, he ate just a little over half, and so left. We had leftovers from his sandwich, and my daughter just took the paper plate and set it on top of the trash at an angle that I knew any second now this little sandwich was gonna be definitely not an option. This is kind of funny. I was standing there thinking of all this in my mind. My daughter comes in the kitchen and says, "Mom, what are you doing?" And I didn't even have an answer. I think I said, "What?" She needed help with something. She didn't even know that I was gazing at the sandwich. And the funny part is, the reason I hesitated wasn't because it was in the trash. The reason I hesitated was I was trying to calculate what kind of trouble I'd be in if I ate it, because it had regular bread that has gluten in it. And that's what I was calculating. Was it worth it for me to inhale the gluten bread and be in pain all night? I learned so many things from the show Seinfeld and King of Queens about people. I would never really analyze people like that unless it was something that kept happening, that caught my attention, whether it be annoying or funny. Also never really paid attention to food preferences that people had. And I think this has to do with how you were brought up, simply because preferences, and they're all the same, and it's drastically different. We're from Southern California, his family's from Indiana, and I didn't realize so many things about my sweetheart, and there's just a little words of wisdom that for any of us who have food preferences, likes or dislikes, I suggest as soon as you get married to write it on a piece of paper and post it somewhere so your sweetheart won't ruin your food anymore for you in the future. My husband did not do that, and I didn't even think to ask him to do it because I just never thought that there'd be so many food preferences that I'd never heard of before. But anyways, instead of him saying, Angela, I do not eat leftovers, I do not eat casseroles, those are the top two that come to mind. Let me tell you, we grew up, Mom cooked everything, and she was a wonderful cook. Casseroles, leftovers, breakfast for supper. Oh, yes. He would not do that. I think one time I halfway tried to get him to have bacon and eggs, and that was like not even an option. But oh, and do not eat from my plate. Do not drink from my cup or bowl. Eat from my bowl. And it literally, he had to hit the roof and get so mad at me before I fully understood that he didn't like it. And he got so mad, and I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And it happened to be on an evening when he had made a chocolate chip shake. And you guys, he would make it in the biggest tumbler, tallest tumbler he could find, and put a ton of chocolate chip ice cream in there, a ton of crackle, and a ton of milk, because he loved chocolate chip shakes. He did not prefer to have just plain ice cream. He wanted it to be in a milkshake form, and so I never wanted one. I just wanted bits and pieces and sips of his. And he would never just drink the shake from the tumbler or straw. He would always use his spoon, and as if he was savoring the milkshake to last forever. So when I would ask for some, I would just take a big gulp and down it. I don't think he liked it, and he got so mad. So that little episode stayed in my mind. And so the next few times when he wasn't happy with a supper choice or something, I said, do you not like bean casserole? Or, I think it was like a 3-bean salad or some kind of bean casserole. I think, the French fried onions, they have a recipe for green bean casserole. And he would never tell me, and I had to ask him. He said, no, I don't like it. And okay, so I knew not to give him that. And then days later, we have another episode. I get some kind of casserole, something like that. And he's unhappy. He said, didn't I tell you I don't like casseroles? I said, my mistake. I thought you just didn't like the French fried onion green bean casserole recipe. I did not know that meant all of them. But I was young, and the thought never came to me that he wouldn't like just what I just referred to as just like all American meals. And because we are so much alike in so many areas, how can it be that we're so off on food choices? And the other one was how he had to eat everything in rotation. And I'm just the opposite. The food item that I love the most, I'll either eat first or eat last. But he has to have a rotation. Like steak, have a bite of steak, he'll have a bite of his potatoes, he'll have a bite of his garlic bread and a bite of salad. And he strategizes it out so there's enough bites all around. Like, he never ends up like with too much of something but not enough bites of the other stuff to go around. That's just a lot of stuff to think about when you're eating, I think. But again, I didn't notice he was eating in a pattern because I never note. I don't look at people or think any different of people when they're eating, unless I think what does catch my attention if someone is extremely loud or like a rude eater, like with no manners. But if I was going to notice something about somebody and their food, that would be it. So I don't know how I found out. I think maybe his sister mentioned it. So that was something. And then the salad, how in California the salad was just something you ate before your meal. They bring you a salad. I can't tell you how many times we went to a restaurant and he would always ask to bring his salad with his meal, and they always forgot, and they would bring the salad out first, and he would tell them to take it back. Please bring my salad with me with my meal. At which point they never did. They would forget. I don't know how, but he would not eat his salad before the meal. So maybe that's just a California thing, to eat the salad before your meal. That was a little bit stressful. And what else? I think I've run down a list for us of all his little food moments. So I don't know who I'm more surprised by. His eating preferences or me, the fact that it took years before I caught on to any of that. And it was real hard for him to let me be queen of the kitchen. That was kind of a heartbreak for me, because we grew up traditional mom and dad. Mom was in charge of the inside of the house, and dad the outside of the house, which was a lot of work, because that's the front yard, the backyard, all the upkeep, and the garage, and the cars, and any kind of maintenance repairs that you had to watch over. And it worked out very well. And again, I just assumed we have many things in common. I assumed he knew that there's things the wife does and things the husband does, but he would not stay out of the house duties or chores for anything. That was so upsetting. And so then a lot of times I would just come in when he was done cooking in the kitchen, and I say, well, let me know when you're done and I'll get the table ready. And I thought that would be a happy compromise until every single time when I prepared the table for everyone to sit down and come and eat, everyone would sit down and come and eat, and I'd be bringing hot plates to each person. And I'd have all the condiments in the world on the table: salad dressings, salt, pepper, A1 sauce, Tabasco sauce, mayo, ketchup. I'd have everything for fear there'd be something he wanted that I forgot. And would you know it, and I am not exaggerating, there's still, back in the day, not so much anymore because our eating schedules are just so different, but he would always have to get up as he was getting ready to eat to get something I forgot. And for a young person who wants to really please the family with a meal, to have him do that was so upsetting. And I think when I mentioned it to him, I think the only way I was happy is if I asked him, can you please take a look at the table and make sure I have everything there for you before you sit down. And that worked well. Oh, the other thing that was kind of bothersome is when he sat down to his meal, he wanted everything scalding hot. He wanted to be sitting down, and he wanted his meal brought to him right off the skillet, right off the barbecue, right out of the oven. And that's okay, I understand. But when the kids were growing up, it was not fun. So I would try to get them to eat their salad, but of course not. They wanted to eat like Dad. And as they would say, Dad doesn't do that. I want to eat my salad with my meal. It just seemed like it brought up a lot of things at supper time when you don't want things coming up at supper time. You just want to sit down and relax or be quiet or just enjoy conversation. Perhaps because Grandpa, my husband's dad, did not like talking at the table. He had a saying. He said, let the victuals stop your mouth. So I don't know if he made that up or that really was a saying from Indiana. And I felt so bad because our family's the complete opposite. Italian on one side, Polish on the other side, and we just talked. And the best part of supper was how the parents always lingered after a meal at the meal table. Smoked cigarettes, drank a pot of coffee. I don't know what they did back then. Did Grandma really make real coffee, or did she make decaf? And even my mom and dad, when us kids were done, they'd sit there at the dinner table and just talk. Oh, was that a heartbreak for me? My husband would be done with his food, get his plates, put them in the kitchen, and he'd come back and look like he was starting to, put the table away. And even though we were still kind of straggling, ask him if we could just hang out. And that was not easy for him. And again, that's just the differences in how we were raised, I'm sure, but like, again, I'm just so dumbfounded how we are totally perfect for each other, yet everything revolving around a meal was stressful for me. However, I do give thanks that he was not as rude in the restaurant as another relative on his side of the family. I won't go into who it was. She is completely disowned from the family anyways. Can't even believe that I'm even talking about her. But the requests she would make in a restaurant were unbelievable. I used to feel so bad for the waiter or waitress, but somehow her family, I guess, read her the riot act, because as she aged, and I got pretty well into her last of her senior years, she stopped. It seemed like she quit doing it cold turkey. So I have a hunch her family read her the riot act after all the decades of going through that. Let's see, what else? Oh, I realize I think we have one daughter that eats like my husband, one daughter that eats like me. Meaning, like when you make a sandwich, it doesn't have to be toasted, the bread. And you just put a moderate amount of everything. Moderate mayo, ketchup, relish, and mustard if it's a hot dog or a hamburger. And my husband, he would put gobs and gobs, heaping gobs of stuff. He wasn't a mayonnaise, he was a Miracle Whip enthusiast. Tons of it on there. Peanut butter, Miracle Whip. I couldn't even keep up. And he really had no rhyme or reason other than that's how he did it as a kid, and he loves it that way. And even when he would make peanut butter and crackers was like his go-to snack. Actually, it was Ritz crackers, peanut butter, and Miracle Whip that for the life of me, I can't even try to like it. He would put like a tablespoon of peanut butter, tablespoon of Miracle Whip, and just put the whole thing in his mouth, and down it with milk. He'd make like 4 or 5 of those crackers for a midday snack, and I never understood the joy of that because there's so much flavor in your mouth. How do you enjoy it? But he loved it, and if I would ever sit down with crackers, it would be a little bit of something on top of the cracker. Interesting. So I'm just curious. What might you be your food preference? And again, just like a word of wisdom for any young people who just got married, you have to know food really is a big deal to most people, especially if you're a newly married person. I think there is something true to the way to a man's heart is his stomach. There's a lot of truth in that. So I encourage you to share your food preference or your experience with others in your life with food preferences and how it affects you or doesn't affect you. But all I know is I sure do have the most fun I've ever had with food has been here on YouTube with all you guys. That's really like the first time in my whole life that I've really had to calculate and think out, I'm going to have this and this and this and this. But it's